Good afternoon, everybody. Most issues should transcend partisan politics, and this sure is one of them. We're gathered here today, elected officials from various backgrounds and levels of government, community leaders from diverse areas throughout Suffolk, to rise together and raise the standards of sober living homes operating in our county. The legislation we are announcing today, the Suffolk Healthy Sober Home Act, is designed to certify, assist, improve, and monitor sober living homes operating in Suffolk County. We're joined here today by a number of elected officials. We have Assemblyman Thiel, Assemblyman Hennessy, County Legislator Browning, Deputy Supervisor Councilman Panico, Councilman Keppert, Councilman Flotterin. We have a lot of leaders from our community. I'm going to name some of them. I probably won't be able to get to everyone, so I apologize in advance. Nancy Manfredonia, Central Islip Civic Council Executive Director, Bishop Charles Bullock, New Bethel First Pentecostal Church, Pastor Angel Falcon, Faith Alive Ministries, Kelly O'Neill, a mother. Her son, Billy, unfortunately lost his life. He was a resident of a sober home. Fred Combs, Bellport Hagerman, East Patchogue Alliance, Steve Erculia, Ronkonkoma Civic, Bruce Edwards, Ronkonkoma Civic, Pastor Greg Wilk, Abundant Life Church, April Coppola and Eric Fisher from the Shirley Advocates, Rob Gessler, Morris Beebe from the Massive Beach Property Owners Association. I believe I saw Kevin Collins and some others as well, John Rogers, Bellport Civic Association, Maria Landman, Mastic Ambulance, as well as Nick Santangelo, Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds from LICAD, as well as co-chair of the Suffolk County Group Oversight Committee, Mary Trotta from Smith Point Homeowners Association, Frank Figurino, Parasquash Creek Civic Association President, Constance Spatz from PEF, and Deborah Kiernan from St. Anne's Parish Outreach, and last but certainly not least, John Cisignano from the Massey Park Civic Association President, who is the President of the Massey Park Civic Association, who worked so hard in the development of this legislation. This bill has been one of the core priorities of the Tri-Hamlet Renaissance Project. A sober living home is intended to provide affordable, drug and alcohol-free environments for people in outpatient treatment who are working to recover from their addictions. The mission of a sober living home is to promote recovery and help these individuals to eventually become self-supporting. In order to meet this mission, residents must be afforded a safe, sanitary, and secure environment. But there are far too many sober living home operators in Suffolk County who fail to provide the atmosphere necessary for residents to be successful. While there certainly are some well-run sober living homes in Suffolk that truly aim to assist in those recovering, too many homes are often overcrowded, drug and alcohol infested, unsanitary, and incompetently managed. This legislation is designed to ensure that appropriate living standards are being maintained. In addition, it sets the terms of enforcement of these standards and regulations. According to our legislation, the New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services, OASIS, in conjunction with Suffolk County and the Suffolk County Group Home Oversight Board, will establish rules and regulations necessary for the certification and operation of all sober living homes operating in Suffolk County. The bill states that all sober living homes will be inspected prior to certification and during the pendency of their operation. These homes must operate in accordance with federal, state, and local building codes. The operators must demonstrate good moral character and have experience working with individuals with substance abuse disorders. Operating certificates will be revoked and operators fined if a sober living home ceases to meet the standards established through this legislation or any other applicable state or local law or regulation to the extent practical with the Federal Fair Housing Act. In addition, our legislation would establish a toll-free hotline to receive and respond to concerns or complaints regarding sober living homes in our county. Any sober home operator without proper certification will be fined $10,000. I strongly urge and request that the New York State Legislature and Governor Cuomo this session supports and passes this important initiative to provide a much higher needed standard of care for Suffolk's sober living homes. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Fred Thiel, followed by Assemblyman Hennessy. Assemblyman Thiel, for many years, has been working very hard on this legislation. He has provided a critical role with his advice and mentorship to guide us along. At this point, I'd like to introduce first Assemblyman Fred Thiel. Thank you. And it's something I said, something I did. We're not talking about dog licenses today. We're talking about licenses for sober homes. But I want to thank Lee for his kind words. We have really worked hard. We almost got across the finish line. 1 year, we got similar legislation all the way to the governor's office, and the governor at that time vetoed it. But we don't take no for an answer. And we're here to try to get Albany to get their priorities straight. And I'm glad to be joined by some new leadership here in Albany, like Senator Zeldin and Assemblyman Hennessy. We're going to get Albany so they get their priorities right. No licenses when you want to go fishing, but if you want to operate a sober home in Suffolk County, you need to meet the standards, you need to get the license, and there's an inspection procedure. You've got to follow the law. And this is for two reasons, really. One is for the residents themselves who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to recover, deserve the kind of services and the kind of living atmosphere where they can succeed. And all of our communities also, they don't need to be inflicted with nothing more than slumlords trying to use the term sober home to try to maximize their investment at the expense of our communities. This legislation will stop that. We do have local officials, state officials. There are Republicans and Democrats and independents and working families party. This is not a bipartisan, this is a nonpartisan effort. We're all together here with the community, and I too join Senator Zeldin in saying that we've waited long enough. This bill needs to pass the state legislature again this year, and we have a different governor, and we're looking for a different result. Thank you. I'd like to introduce newly elected, and he's hit the ground running and has been a great partner in this effort, Assemblyman Ed Hennessy. Greetings. I'm happy to join the senator on the Assembly side with Assemblyman Thiel to be a prime sponsor of this legislation. And we're going to try to move this simultaneously in both houses of the New York State Legislature. I want to compliment County Legislator Kate Browning, who's been one of the inspirations behind this issue since she came into office several years ago. Local governments are struggling with these homes throughout our county, throughout our state. This piece of legislation has been crafted in a way that we think the pilot program provision will provide us a mechanism to get through some of the bureaucratic resistance that this issue has been receiving up in Albany. I'm confident that can happen, and then we can have some data that can help us create some permanent correction to a system that just doesn't work in the neighborhoods where these houses are placed, and certainly doesn't work for the people in these houses that are trying to get treatment. The first responders that you'll see filtered in here can tell you that many of these homes that they go to when they're responding to a call are not sober at all. And to try to separate the treatment component from the housing component, all with state funding, just doesn't make any sense. It needs to be corrected, and this legislation puts us on a track where I think it's finally going to happen. So I'm happy to be a co-prime sponsor. Thank you. Thank you, Assemblyman Hennessy. And when the Assemblyman was just speaking, he mentioned our county legislator, Kate Browning, and we all know how hard she has worked on this issue for so many years. Really, much to her credit, carrying the ball. I have a lot of respect for the initiative she's taken within Suffolk County, doing everything in her power. And without any further ado, I would like to call up our county legislator, Kate Browning.
Well, I have to say thank you to our Senator Lee Zeldin for his leadership in doing this, and also to my Assemblyman Dave and Hennessy. For 7 years, I have been making a lot of noise about this, and I can't tell you how happy I am today to be standing here that finally, these say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The grease has finally come through. And this is, something that's been hurting our communities. The 3rd Legislative District has been hurt so much by these unregulated sober homes. And the people who live in them have been hurt. They need help, and they need to be in the right homes, and they need to be in recovery. And these unregulated sober homes are not doing them any favors, and it's not helping them. On the county level, we have an RFQ. We'll be going out shortly to qualify homes, sober homes, proper sober homes. And I don't want to say sober homes, I want to say recovery homes, because that's what they should be. And that is what I can do. Like I said, for the past 7 years, I've tried to do everything I can on the county level, and I've pushed that the state needs to step up and do more. And I have 3 wonderful, great gentlemen standing right behind me, and I'm their #1 fan right now because they have stepped up and they are doing the job. So thank you, Senator Zeldin and Assemblyman Steele and Hennessy.
I would say, and I say this as a compliment, Kate, she was very squeaky on this. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And without any further ado, I'd like to bring up some of our partners at the town level. Our deputy supervisor here from the town of Brookhaven, here on behalf of our town supervisor, Ed Romaine, and also a councilman representing the 6th Council District, Dan Panico. Thank you, ladies. I will be short. This is the major piece in the puzzle, cleaning up this area. The town of Brookhaven, we aggressively go after those that illegally pack homes and bring down our standards of living everywhere. However, it's been very difficult dealing with these sober homes that are unregulated over my shoulders. We all knew about this one. We were able to close it down, and now with this legislation, and I urge the legislature, we have great sponsors. I urge the governor to finally sign this and solve the problem and make people's lives better. The people who buy these homes care not, the majority of people, I should say, care only about one thing, and that's making money to the detriment of the community and everybody standing behind me and alongside of me. They care not about recovery. These homes are not sober, and all they are money machines for people who could care less and are greedy. This legislation is going to stop that. I can't thank Lee Zeldin enough. Lee and I went to high school together. We both grew up in this community, and it's great to have a partner like him up in the Senate, and I think he's doing a fantastic job. This is going to go a long way to bringing the Mastic Shirley, Mastic Beach community finally the ability to reach its potential, and Lee, I can't thank you enough. I believe we're standing in Connie Pepper's council district. That's true. She reminds me of that. We have 2 other councilmen who are going to speak. Our first one, Councilwoman Connie Keppert from the town of Brookhaven, who represents the area where we are, 502 William Floyd Parkway. Connie.
Thank you, Lee. And I do want to echo everyone else and thank Senator Zeldin and our assembly sponsors, Assemblyman Thiel and Assemblyman Hennessy. This is really something that needs to move forward so that the town can resolve these issues. It has taken years to close the house behind me, and that was due to a health issue. We have trouble not only getting in the house to look at the violations. So that's the first step. So this legislation will help us do that. It will help us stop these predatory landlords who prey on people that have succumbed to addiction and prey on communities, destroying their quality of life and destroying their safety. So once again, I look forward to the passage of this legislation, and certainly I will do everything I can to see that it passes. So once again, thank you to everybody working on this.
Our other elected official who is here from our neighbors to the west, the town of Islip, where I know representing communities like Brentwood and Central Islip, the sober home issue is no stranger to the town of Islip. So I'd like to bring up Councilman Steve Flottering.
Thank you. Again, I'm here on behalf of Supervisor Croce and the town board, but this is something, some people even said, why is somebody from Islip doing on this side of the tracks, in a sense? this has been a problem that's been a problem in all communities across Long Island. This is not just right here in Shirley, it's across Long Island. And in the town of Islip, besides in Bay Shore, Central Islip, and Brentwood, it's also in Sayville. Does not crosses all economic lines. And it really got to a damage point yet. We all have friends or family that need these services. And I know with those times when you're having to help out these families, you're trying to fix their life, improve their lives. The scariest part is which Suffolk home you even go to, or any that you trust. There's no regulation. So it's an important step for the people that need this help, to save their lives, save their families' lives, but also on top of the communities that these affect. Some of these mismanaged slum laws, which is hide behind lack of rules in the past, have destroyed neighborhoods. And now, thank you all the members, all levels, for getting to this point today. So thank you.
And finally, from with a very important perspective, a gentleman who has been a leader throughout the state of New York on a lot of issues regarding health, mental health. He resides in my district in the Islip side, in Hopog, and is a leader and a partner with Kate Browning at the county level. I'd like to bring up Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds.
And thank you for taking this step. You know, we have for the longest time been talking about the need for New York City Masons to assume responsibility for the city, and that was critical, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. It's even more critical now. Tens of thousands of young people have been swept into both heroin addiction and prescription pill addiction. The state spends a lot of money on treatment for those folks. The parents invest a lot of time and energy. And they go into a 28-day program and then come back and they land in a house like this. Not only is the state's investment completely wasted, but families wind up being shattered. Families who believe that their loved ones are being put into safe, secure, sober environments only to have those dreams taken away. So this is a very critical piece of the equation. A big thanks to Kate Browning, who's been relentless on this. You know, this is not always the most popular topic to talk about. And for us, as we look at the opiate crisis on Long Island and ways to make it a little bit better, fixing this is a big part of the equation. So thank you for your leadership. You know, very clear message to Albany. You know, on the short to-do list as session winds up, this has got to be at the top of the list. So thank you very much.
I'm happy to open up if there are any questions from the media who are here. For our partners, we have a few partners at the state level who are not with us or co-sponsors. On the Senate side, for example, Senator Ken LaValle, who led the effort with Assemblyman Thiel a few years back. Senator Boyle, newly elected, he's another co-sponsor. Assemblyman Phil Ramos, who represents the Brentwood Central Islip area, where there is a big sober home issue, as I mentioned earlier. A lot of representatives here from Belport, as well as the local community and elsewhere. So, but I just wanted to give a shout out to our state legislators who are going to help us hopefully get this done. So Leonard Ormond from the Lighthouse Mission, and there are many others who we didn't get a chance to mention, and I apologize for that. But thank you everyone for being here. If any members of the media have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time.
I have a question. What are the chances of this opening up again? And if there is a breakdown?
Well, there's always a chance. There's a chance with any home that somebody could come in, illegally pack people into a home. Not only the home behind us, but the home anywhere. And that's why it takes ever vigilant elected officials and our staff members and the entirety of government, and especially people. You know, people in the community are our best resources. While we try to be, and I will tell you that I have very hardworking colleagues at all levels of government, try to be everywhere at all times. It's the other people standing out here, the community leaders and members on the periphery, that give us our best tips. So I would encourage members of the community to be ever vigilant. You have very responsible elected officials standing here, and to let us know if you see something, say something.
And this site will never operate the way it did previously. And I think that all of us being here, the actions that have taken place in the past with regards to this site at the county level and the town level, this legislation, a very clear message that this is the example of what should not ever happen ever again. And that's why we're here today. Any other questions?
Can you boil down the top 5 points of the legislation? Just kind of boil it down to a
Well,
synopsis.
so the primary, for one, this particular legislation requires certification through Oasis to operate a sober home in the state of New York. And if you are not maintaining your sober home to a particular minimum standard, Oasis is going to have the authority, working with Suffolk County, to revoke your certification and impose a fine as well. If you operate a sober living home and don't even apply for a certification in the first place, you will actually be subject to more of a fine than you would have been if you applied and weren't operating to that standard. There will be more accountability through this toll-free hotline that will be created. There is going to be a certification fee, which is going to, for every sober living home operator to help with the cost of the inspections, shared equally between the state and the county. So those are several of the highlights. There are other components of it. The bill, once we file it in the next few days, we'll have a bill number associated with it, and anyone will be able to access it online at nysenate.gov or nyassembly.gov to read the bill and memo. And those are the highlights.
Chief Nazzo, Brookhaven Fire Department. I live right behind the facility. We've been called here several times for calls. They refused access for us into the house. Stuff like this will be regimented though with this bill that, we've gotten here that we're erasing the boards. 37 people in the house, we're only supposed to have a certain amount, which is dangerous for us firefighters, not knowing how many people or how many beds are in the house. But by picking up the phone now, the place will be able to be inspected if we see something going bad.
Yeah. So first off, what's so striking, if you didn't hear, Bruce said there were 37 individuals living in this house behind us. 37, and there's no way to do that without stacking them 4+ deep in a small room, which is just incredible. As far as a process going forward, the operator would have to apply for a certification. Prior to receiving that certification, the home would have to be inspected. That certification is going to provide for what the maximum occupancy is of that house. So for example, if you have 37 people in this house, I guarantee that's more than whatever max occupancy may be approved. This home can be shut down by that certification being revoked through fines. But what's also important is that county and town laws, village laws, that are imposed will fall under this particular piece of legislation. So to the extent allowed for the Fair Housing Act, the Federal Fair Housing Act, the local laws will also apply to the operation of sober homes. Building codes, health codes, they all will apply. So there's no way that we are going to see this ever happen again if we're able to get this bill passed and signed into law, because we will see that certification revoked and we will see that operation shut down.
Will we see a way to educate the clients that do go to rehab, that are in the process of moving into a sober house? Do we see a plan on educating them where they feel that they can be comfortable in saying something instead of maybe losing their housing?
Well, there is no question that the people who live inside the homes, as far as intel on the ground, is our deputy supervisor just mentioned, the people here in this group are a great resource of information. The people living in the homes are the best source of information. And we all would strongly encourage anyone living in a home that is poorly operated to let us know. There will be a toll-free hotline to share your concerns, share your complaints with Oasis. That information, in partnership with Suffolk County as well as the oversight board created by Legislator Browning, working together through inspections and the certification process, can shut down that operation or help bring them up to standard, and also help the person who's calling, who needs help, who's there for all of the right reasons, to help that individual into another sober home that is maintained to that standard. So I would strongly encourage, we all, I'm sure, would strongly encourage anyone living in a poorly run sober home to call this number so that we can get them help and make sure that no one else moves into that home and receives this substandard care.
And that's how we close on this one, by the way.
Just touch upon your point. It's a very good point. Because a lot of people who are here honestly for treatment live in fear. And we know this firsthand because complaints come into my office and into the law department, people are very scared. And the people sometimes who are unscrupulous, I referred to earlier, as greedy, I would go a step further, and some people are referred to as thugs, who run these homes simply to make money, and they keep people living in fear. And with Lee's leadership in this legislation, we don't want people living in fear. We want people to have good, clean places to get the rehabilitation. Otherwise, we're simply throwing, besides the fact that they're being intimidated, people's taxpayer money is being thrown good money after the bad, and you're not getting any treatment to boot.
One last question.
When you want to upgrade the standards of the sober homes, is there going to be a mechanism that will actually, my thing is, it seems like there are certain communities that get the brunt of it. Why should Shirley have 87 sober homes and nothing over emerges? It's got to be worked out even for everybody.
No question. So the legislative history of this particular proposal has passed the legislature in the past, but it then has been vetoed by prior executives. So what we want to do, and we have spoken about your particular concern at length. John Cisignano, who is here from Mastic Park, Civic has expressed that as well. We want to create the certification process through Oasis. We want to get that set up, and we want to make sure it's not vetoed for any particular controversial proposal. When we can get this up and running, any additional ways that we can further improve the new law, we will get behind at that point. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't risk a veto from the governor by adding something dealing with that oversaturation component. Although I'll tell you that I'd be surprised if there's a single person in this crowd who doesn't share your concern that we're seeing particular hamlets, low-income, high-needs communities, hamlets throughout Suffolk County. And in the 3rd Sant District, I'll tell you areas like Shirley Mastic Beach, North Bellport, Brentwood Central Islip, seeing an oversaturation. So that's definitely a concern that's shared from everyone who is here. And John Cisignano has been a great mouthpiece on that with all of our meetings and development of this legislation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.